Hello everyone, this is Defense Politics Asia and this is the conclusions. And welcome back to Chill again. Hopefully it's cold enough for you. I know it's summer. Actually it's not summer. I think summer has ended. It's coming to autumn, right? I don't know. Singapore have no four seasons, so I have no idea. Singapore is only hot and wet season, and that's it. So anyway, so there is some major things that have happened, and the most important thing, I would say, in the grand strategic scale, is there's some sense of a lifting of the operational pause. So the Russian forces seems to have in some part of the front line, but particularly over in the Pokrov front, seems to have went into some kind of operational pause, which I did mention that the lack of progress, and I did mention to you guys also that my guess is that the Russians are regrouping because they have captured way too much ground in way too short time, and this then they needed to move their frontline HQ to somewhere nearer to the front line. I was suggesting maybe Novozalane or Serhievka, maybe even in the near future, Novohorodivka. So which to me makes perfect sense. And I feel like they have finished setting up their forward operating base. They regroup. Maybe there's some rotations. Who knows, man? And it seems like the offensive operation have started maybe 1-2 days ago, and particularly we know this because the Russians have started the counter offensive or the offensive resume the offensive at Novohorodivka. So they have captured some grounds on the western part of the city. And on top of that, there is also the announcement of the capture of Novohorodivka. This comes after the Ukrainians have been trying to counterattack multiple times, particularly over in the southern part of Novohorodivka. And all this looks really promising on video. Like the Ukrainian forces unloaded their loads into the south at the bottom, and yeah, but it didn't stick. It didn't stick there. They got destroyed. And so as a result, Novohorodivka did not give birth to anything meaningful for the Ukrainian forces. So now the Russians have now restarted their offensive, and I'm not sure how far this time round they would go, because sometimes this sort of thing can be deceiving, because like this could be just some kind of like a buffer zone that they have created, and then they will just stop. That's also a possibility. So which is why I also don't want to fully say that this confirmed 100% operational unpaused. It could be the case where the operation have never paused, but the Ukrainians just fought very well and able to stop the offensive from gaining more grounds. That is also possible. But yeah, but the reality right now is that the Russians did gain grounds, and they are heading in this western direction from Novohorodivka. And from this direction, we can see that the aim probably is to capture the countryside and then cut the highway. This is probably makes sense. This highway leads from Selidove all the way up to Pokrov, which is the final objective in this campaign. Let's put it that way. So, and on top of this, if the Russians can push south, they can also strike the rear position at Selidove, and that will also give the Ukrainians massive headaches. The Russians have been pretty much somewhat held at Mikhailivka, and the Ukrainians did have some positions. Like they tried to position a tank just below the bridge. The bridge then got destroyed by the Russians. And now with the latest geolocations, Russian forces basically have overrun this Ukrainian line of defense. And now the front line have moved forward. So that is a current situation, and this is also yet another signal that there might be a operational, a start of a new phase of operation after the operational pause where they try to regroup. So that is a possibility. So that is what we are looking at. But important thing to note is that the previous claim of the Russian claim is just invalidated. It did not hold true. So I'm not sure where the pro-Russian sources get this information. Like we still have this big piece of gray zone that cannot be corroborated at this moment. So it could be a case where they were not here at all. The Ukrainian lines actually is way ahead, and Selidove is totally unmolested and unviolated by the Russian ops. Ox. No, but Ox is cool. No, Ox is cool if you play Warcraft. So anyway, actually I'm not sure why Ox are derogative, derogatory, whatever it is. Somehow I just cannot pronounce the word, but I'm not sure why. Like for us gamers, right? Actually, I don't game a lot nowadays, but gamers or even no fantasy war games, like people who like Warhammer, the a lot of the ring, Ox generally not necessarily is uncool. So I'm not sure. It's like Ukraine. Do you know that they like to call the Russians Vetnik? No, it's Vetnik. Vetnik is a jacket. It's like a jacket that the Russians like to wear. That's it. It's a jacket. So they just calling them jackets. It's weird. It's like why is that might as well just call them dolphins, dolphins. Hey, you hamster. It I think it sounds more offensive than hey jacket. I don't understand. So anyway, currently what we have is basically if you look at just purely attack reports looks no difference. We have the similar stuff, the being reported by the by the Ukrainian Defense Ministry all around. Zelenopole, Vosnivizenka, Novotroyske, Otoretske, Hodivka, Novohodivka, Selidove, Mikhailivka. Like this is being reported every single day. So I wouldn't just jump into conclusion that maybe there is 100% an operational pause or unpause. So but this is just signals that it seems like the case. At the Khernik region, there is also seems to be have a sudden uptick in the number of attacks with Helisanivka, Zelenipolshi, Dolinivka, Khernik, Ukraine, and all these are reported largely by the Ukrainian Defense Ministry. The Ukrainian Defense Ministry only didn't mention Khernik. Khernik is only mentioned by the pro-Russian sources. So this continues, but if you think about how fast the Russians has been progressing and how effective they were, the fact that the front line have not changed for this many days, of course, is very suspicious, very weird. We would expect the Russians to continue to take over this place because this looks very not difficult, at least not on the map, to take over because it's defensively very complicated for the Ukrainians. But somehow there is this lack of progress in this region for quite a number of days. So yeah, they're really hard to tell. Maybe there is indeed operational pause, maybe it's not. Of course, the important thing is the capture of Krasnohorivka. I believe I mentioned. Did I mention it yesterday in the conclusions? Maybe I did. So the lower chopstick has been fully captured. Krasnohorivka has been taken. The chopsticks have reunited with each other. They love each other. They can get married now, and they work in a pair. So Krasnohorivka is a massive loss. But of course, nowadays the media don't really talk much about the Ukraine war in the proper way. And is Krasnohorivka is as fortressy as the Avdiivka city. They're both very, very fortress cities, and both has fallen. New York, another of this fortress city, has fallen. The entire line of Pivnishne, Zalizne, Druzhba, they have all largely fallen. So we have basically already seeing that the Russians have basically taken the first line of defense of the Ukrainians, largely speaking, and the Russians taken Marinka, they crossed Georgievka, the Novomikhailivka has been taken. They even taken Vodiane, which is the one of the big news, right? That I've already mentioned. So the entire Donetsk first line of Ukrainian defense has really entirely has fallen to the Russians. And when is the Ukrainians going to start to panic? I have no freaking idea. And in terms of the mainstream media, it's very confusing right now. On one hand, they try to tell the world that the Ukrainians still can fight if you give them more weapons and if they are able to mobilize the troops. But on the other part, they are saying that they don't have enough troops, nobody want to fight. And no, a lot of conflicting, things that is being reported on the Ukrainian side. I'm not sure how the pro-Ukrainian people are coping with the situation, and I'm not saying coping as in like a negative thing. Just saying that the how do you keep yourself sane when you clearly you support Ukraine, you want or you don't support Russia, you hate Russia, or you don't want Russia to win, and then you really have been following all these pro-Ukrainian sources or reporters that give you a lot of good news, but the front line has been collapsing, bad news has been appearing, F-16s have not even shown themselves on the battlefield, generally speaking. Plenty of footages of destroyed HIMARS, M270, Abrams tank, Challenger tank, Leopard tanks. Yeah, I'm not sure how do they really actually feel or cope with this very complicated emotions. Yeah, I think this is just some random thoughts. I'm concluding. No, I'm concluding this thing. uh, okay, and Velika Novosibirsk is also yet another place where the Russians suddenly seems to have really upped the ante. Not just with the capture of Prishestivka, the Russians is now pushing towards Shetaske, and they're attacking Zolota Neva. And then there is also this push towards Blahodatne, which is the town over here, just on the opposite shore of the opposite bank of the Starozeve, and the Russians are attacking Novodarivka. So this is one of these major things over on the past day, where I find that this looks like an offensive, looks like one, and we will continue to monitor. If this situation here continues to escalate, and we see frontline changes, then clearly there's some kind of a major offensive happening over in this Velika Novosibirsk sector, and it would be quite crazy because across this Donetsk front, DPS Donetsk front, we have offensive over the Hernik, we have offensive at Krasnohorivka, we have offensive over in the Pokrov region, Konstantinivka, Vodiane region, and then we now have something like Voleda, and then we have Zolota Neva towards Shetaske, and then up towards Velika Novosibirsk, Novodarivka. It's crazy, right? It's like this, and this is just the Donetsk front, and this is the less, people are less interested in this front line. People are more excited about Pokrov because everyone want romantic things, but no, this is rather crazy, don't you think? So, yeah, this is just some of the major things that I'm observing, in the current trends, and also, what else? What else do we have? The Zelensky is interesting. There's a report again of fighting at Zelensky after a 5-day pause, and now we have geolocation of Russian forces attacking Ukrainian positions in these regions here. However, this area here we have already mapped as under Russian control. It was reported to be under Russian control. In fact, if I didn't remember wrongly, by Ukrainian sources. So this is already captured. So somehow the footage just came out today. Not sure if this is something new or if there's a new offensive that is currently operating in this area here. One of these major objectives in the Zelensky region would be Minkivka. Minkivka was previously used as a forward operating HQ during the battle, when the Battle of Bakhmut was still raging fiercely. Now I'm not sure if they're still using this because this is way too close to the front line. So the Russians may want Minkivka, and this would be a good defensive position against all these heavy fortifications along the canal, and provide a buffer so while the real push goes northward towards Right Alexandrivka, which is something that I have been proposing for like more than a year. So let's see how this goes, which is over here, Right Alexandrivka. And we have also another major thing is over at the Sivers front. The Sivers offensive by the Russians now has been corroborated somewhat. In the Zvenivka region, the Ukrainian Defense Ministry reported the attack, the fighting over here. Previously, I believe the fighting was only mentioned by the Russian Defense Ministry. So now we also have the Ukrainian Defense Ministry confirming that there is fighting around in the Zvenivka region, which is very interesting. Very, very interesting. And so if the fighting is here, means that something must have been lost by the Ukrainians along this line here. And if Vimka is really indeed taken by the Russians, because the Ukrainians only mentioned fighting in the Ivano-Darivka region. They didn't mention Vimka. They mentioned Sperne, Volkomokanyamske, Ivano-Darivka, Zvanivka, but not Vimka. Could this be also a quiet corroboration or that the Russians have taken Vimka? That is also a possibility. So the front line may actually look very straight, like this. There's a possibility, and the Russians are trying to push out of Ivano-Darivka, continue to create this death trap for the Ukrainians at Sperne, and they are now pushing Zvanivka. So that, and previously we have the Russians talking about Sivers for 2 days. So could this be the one? Could this be direction towards Sivers? So no, the front line might actually be this, but we haven't have this yet. So let's continue to wait. Otherwise, osteo fronts, I don't think there's much to talk about per se. Nothing very significant. The Russians continue in the Kharkiv front. The Russians continue to harass Hoptivka. So this is something to take note. It might be just fire damage, like what they say in the report, but this is near the border. The Russians could potentially attack and capture this. There is a possibility, and this region has always been a target by the Russians. They have previously attacked Vysoka, Yaruha, Elisivka, Hoptivka, Kudievka. So this area here has been, a part of these places where the Russians like to raid and attack. And on the 10th of May, there was this rumor or report by the pro-Russian source talking about the capture of Hotivka. After that, it got invalidated, or the Russians have withdrawn. So this definitely is a prime area that the Russians may want to attack again. So let's wait and see how this goes. And we move, and then I think the one last thing, of course, is Kursk. The Ukrainians have not just double down, triple down, four down, five down. I think it's a sixth down already. Sixth down. On the Kursk offensive. They really committed into this offensive, and they are attacking in multiple locations. Over in Martinovka, what is this place? Mihailovka, Chikaskoye, Konopelka, Malaya Loknia, Kremyanoe, Karinevo, and this is the 10Y October. It's actually October, but no, yeah, October. So they are attacking in all directions. Very wise. And there is some changes, like at the Karinevo region, the Ukrainians seems to have made some breakthrough with Ukrainian forces over at Medvedevka Veterano region getting airstrike by the Russians. And however, this confirmed the Ukrainians have made progress around in the Medvedevka region. And the last report of the fighting was on the 7th. So maybe the Ukrainians broke through 4 days ago, and they managed to push the Russians back at Medvedevka region. And the Russians ran away, and they feel very salty about it. So they send airstrike and play cheat. So evil Russians cannot fight fair. But yeah, so this is the case. Previously we have this pointy thing. I already forgot why is it pointy. I totally forgot why. I think maybe there was a geolocation of Ukrainian forces. I can't remember why is it so pointy. But whatever it is, Vetrino is probably under Ukrainian control right now, given the fact that this is the airstrike. And I don't think they would airstrike their troops if the Russian troops are too near. So I believe the Ukrainians may have a much bigger control around this area. Terrain is, of course, this is not so good. This is countryside, and the Ukrainians could push further out. They previously have tried to attack Topino, which failed miserably, and now they can attack Alexandrovka, which is one of the places that they previously tried to attack. They were geolocated nearby, I think around this region, so it's not impossible for the Ukrainians to actually veer out again into the countryside and probably linked up with the force to the gray zones on the other side. So yeah, but while it's doable, and the Russians probably will allow them to do it because the Russians are not holding the kind of defense that they are using in Ukraine war, like the in the Ukraine special military operation zones. The way they fight in Kursk is very different. They literally just let the Ukrainians run everywhere and then just take them out one by one by using drones, airstrike, helicopter strikes, and then no matter how they travel, there's nothing important over here. So the next important thing is very far away over at the Gulf, and that is 30 kilometers away. So is yeah. So this countryside may not be very meaningful, and this could be a very extended kill zone. This entire area here might be just a very, very extended kill zone, and the Ukrainians can travel anywhere they want. It doesn't matter. The Russians will let them travel, and then they will just get taken out bit by bit, bit by bit, bit by bit. And that's basically exactly what we are seeing for this entire Kursk offensive. And I think it's really painful, I think, for the Ukrainians. Like the leadership, the command must be feeling so frustrated and so irritated by the reality of the situation that they thought that they will be fighting, but all they do was just walking around and get hit. And once you get the equipment destroyed, then you will want to try to retrieve it to prevent it from falling to the Russians, and so that you can repair it. But when people and that creates logistical issues. If the people got injured or got killed, typically injured is more worse because got killed, they just abandon the body there. But if they get injured, then you need to retrieve the casualty. That also create logistical problems. And then the offensive operation just keep getting delayed or keep getting a lot of problems. And I think this is one of the big issues in the Kursk offensive. Like I mentioned long time ago, when you do an offensive, you have to abandon your injured people. You have to just keep pushing through. Let the real people that comes up after the vanguard to take care of these casualties. The main force have to continue to push through. And that's exactly how the Ukrainians operated in the beginning of the Kursk offensive. But it seems that by this point, we are not seeing this anymore. It looks like the troops are getting a bit fearful, or it could be that the brave, courageous, well-trained troops that was hitting it hard at the beginning has all been lost. That's also a possibility. And I also wonder if there is a possibility where the trained troops has been withdrawn and they have filled in the places with the mobilized troops, the troops that is less trained just to hold positions. I'm not sure if that's also a possibility, given the lack of progress in their offensive. So there's a lot of possibilities. I'm just raising possibilities that maybe you can think about it. Maybe you might have a better idea or opinion than me too. So Russians, generally, I thought that they are going on the counter. Generally, there doesn't seem to be much there. The only place that seems to have a very firm Russian presence is Borki and Ulanok, where the Russians are pushing. But even their pushing also doesn't seem very serious. It's like half-hearted. They want the Ukrainians to get stuck here. It looks like that's what they want. They want the Ukrainians to get stuck here. So yeah. So I'm not sure this Russian counteroffensive doesn't seem to really take shape in the way how I imagine it to be. As usual, the Russians always make decisions that I didn't expect. They are very unpredictable. They don't do things the way how we normal human beings think. But that only makes sense because they are not human beings, right? They are orcs, right? So I should have known better. So yeah, I think I haven't recited enough Slava Ukraini every day. So I will repent. I will repeat it more times. Slava Ukraini. See, I feel better already. I feel like my intelligence have increased by plus 10. I feel smarter already. What? Don't laugh. I know you're laughing. Hey, no. Cannot like that. This so disrespectful. So anyway, there is and one last thing. Of course, the Khrushchev region, Russian forces shelled Yampils, Vesa, Pervomaiske, Khrushchev, which means that there is still Ukrainian forces in this region here that the Russians feel that they need to report that they strike them. So it feels like there might be still no forces in this region that the Russians feel like is a threat, or they feel like they need to take out. That to the point where they need to specifically report that they shelled these positions. So yeah, this is generally very unusual because the only other front line generally have so much rear shelling, rear attack airstrikes is in the Kherson region, and even Kherson region don't have this much shelling. So yeah, so we'll just see how this goes. How yeah, because all these rear position attacks are very is not that common in their reports. I'm not saying that in reality. In reality, probably they shell it very common very often. No, the rear positions, but like in this front line is very widely reported versus the other front lines. So yeah, so let's see how this develop. As usual, despite the seemingly good news of Ukrainians front line starting to seemingly moving, my feeling is still very bearish about the Ukrainian offensive. So anyway, that's it. Shit, I talked too much. 36 minutes. Thank you for watching. Do press the like button, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next update.